Hello, I am Ruby Falconer. Today's date is June 19th, 2021, and this is a shamanic Egyptian astrological update for the solstice, which is tomorrow, June 20th. This is a pretty dynamic solstice. Also, tomorrow we have Jupiter, the principle of expansion, which is Horus, the young king in shamanic Egyptian astrology. Jupiter will be changing direction, turning retrograde. So Jupiter right now is stationary. And whenever any of the outer planets are stationary, their energy intensifies. And so anything that's going on right now, Jupiter, Horus is expanding. We also have Mercury changing direction on the 22nd, which is Tuesday. Mercury is Thoth in the Egyptian pantheon. Mercury will be turning direct. Mercury has been retrograde since May 29th. So this is important as well. Throughout this time, Mercury has been in its own sign in Gemini and has been in a challenging relationship, a square to Neptune. And Mercury is about 7 degrees away from a square to Neptune's past. But throughout this time, Mercury's been in that square relationship, a challenging relationship. Neptune is Nephthys, keeper of the mysteries behind the veils. So what this has meant is that this has been a particularly confusing Mercury retrograde period. A lot of the information, you may have noticed this yourself, the information that's coming to you has been kind of had this quality of not being real, hard to know what to believe. It's magical, certainly, and it's also sort of confusing. That's what Neptune is. Neptune in traditional astrology is cosmic consciousness, higher spirituality, intuition, imagination, inspiration, and it's also confusion, delusion, illusion. So we get all of that energy when Neptune is powerful. And added to that, Neptune is slowing to station. Neptune will be changing direction, turning retrograde on June 25th. So it's a busy week with all of these planets changing direction. We've got 3 planets changing direction this week, starting with tomorrow with Jupiter changing direction on the day of the solstice. And the solstice in and of itself is a very powerful event. This is in the northern hemisphere, it's the summer solstice. In the southern hemisphere, it's the winter solstice. We've gone to the end of the pendulum. We've gone to the extreme. In the northern hemisphere, we have our longest days and shortest nights. In the southern hemisphere, you have your longest nights and shortest days. So, the way this works is which you experience depends on where you live on Earth. But it doesn't really matter where you live because it's all part of this spectrum or this cycle, and we're all located somewhere along this path. And so we're all experiencing this in some way at this time, depending really whether we live in the north of our planet or in the south of our planet. But it is the time of extremes. And so the solstices mark that, when the relationship between the sun and the earth is at its extreme in some way, it's going to culminate, it's going to crescendo, and then we're going to start to move in the opposite direction. We in the northern hemisphere, our days will start to get shorter. In the southern hemisphere, your days will start to get longer. So the solstices, again, it doesn't matter which solstice it is, whether it's the June solstice or the December solstice, depending on where you are, this is what you're experiencing. And of course, the equinoxes represent when things come into balance. It doesn't matter, again, whether you're in the north or the south, there's equal days and equal nights. So we have these extremes at the solstices, and then things come into balance at the equinoxes. And this is something we all experience. So it's a powerful event, Earth event, worthy of note when we come to these places, worthy of taking some personal time for contemplation, going inward. And this one in particular is so important because of 3 planets in the next week changing direction. Again, Jupiter, Horus tomorrow, turning retrograde. So Jupiter has moved into Pisces is hesitating now. It's gone as far as it's going to go for right now, and it's going to start moving backwards in Pisces, back into Aquarius. We have Mercury turning direct, coming out of our 3-week Mercury retrograde period. And we have Neptune turning retrograde. And that ongoing square between Mercury and Neptune, which has been in place for the last month or so, and will continue to be in place over the next 3 weeks while Mercury starts to gain momentum. It's going to, for another time, move through a square to Neptune. So, this time of, we just came out of the tunnel between the worlds, with the June 10th total solar eclipse, and we've moved into kind of an unreal energy where nothing is really clear. And I imagine some of you are experiencing this in your own world. It's very easy for communications to get confused, for us to be confused about what we want, confused about where we're going, confused about what this energy is. We're moving into this phase that's going to last for 5 months until November 18th. And it's kind of slow picking up momentum right now. Lots of fuzzy edges as we look around. And then we also, of course, have Neptune stationary. Whenever the outer planets are stationary, Neptune's definitely an outer planet, its influence is very strong. And while technically it's not stationary yet, it's basically stationary. It's on the degree in the minute where it's going to be changing direction. So even though, it's, with all of the scientific instruments where we can measure things, we know that there's still some forward movement with Neptune. There's not much. And, it's incremental. It's a very tiny amount of forward movement. Neptune also has reached the extent of its pendulum swing, so to speak. So lots of, feelings of hesitation, of, being stuck in place. And it's all, of course, against the backdrop of the ongoing Saturn-Uranus square, which dominates all of 2021 and a good portion of 2022 as well. And its primary energy is of volatility, of a sense of the new life, Wajet, Uranian energy pushing against the confines of Saturn, Sobek, attempting to hold that energy in. And so there's kind of a push-pull energy, kind of like contractions. All of this is taking place against that backdrop. So all of this is worthy of acknowledgement, it's worthy of note. As I said earlier, whenever we reach any of these important astrological portals, the solstices, the equinoxes, it's a good time to do some personal ritual, to take some time in contemplation and meditation. And so in honor of that, I would like to offer a journey, a solstice journey. And what the solstice also means, it doesn't matter whether you live in the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere, the sun will be entering into the water sign Cancer. So we have new energy coming in, with the entry of the sun into Cancer. And Cancer is the 4th sign in the zodiac. If we think of how all of the signs grow out of one another, Aries is about the desire to be, Taurus grounds that desire in physical reality, Gemini thinks about it, and Cancer is an integration process. And so Cancer represents those places in the world where we feel held, where we feel contained, where we feel safe and secure, and the primary archetypes or symbols of those places would be home and family. So Cancerian energy is all about security, safety, stability. Those are the things that are important to folks who have a lot of Cancer energy in their charts. And when we move into Cancer, the sign Cancer, and we do have, right now, we also have the Venus is also in Cancer, so we've already got some Cancerian energy going on. These issues of security, safety, and stability become very important to us. In the Egyptian pantheon, Cancer is allied with Nut and Geb. Nut is the sky goddess, and Geb is the earth god. And when we're talking about the solstices, we're talking about the duality, an ultimate duality, an extreme on either end of the spectrum. And again, it depends on where you live on the planet as to which extreme you're experiencing at which time. So, nonetheless, we're in an opposition. Those of us in the northern hemisphere stand in opposition to, we form a polarity with those of you who live in the southern hemisphere. And this polarity is not a tug of war, but it's a definite opposite ends of this spectrum. And so when we talk about Nut and Geb and talk about the sky goddess and the earth god, and these two are lovers. They, came into existence entwined with one another, and their elemental father, Shu, who is the god of wind, came between them and pushed them apart. And Nut went into the sky to be the sky goddess. Geb became the earth to be the earth god. And it's kind of interesting that at least in Native American traditions, and I think in many indigenous traditions around the world, the sky is often considered to be masculine and the earth is considered to be feminine. That's not true in ancient Egypt. It was the opposite. The sky was considered to be feminine and the earth was considered to be masculine. So it was opposite. Again, duality. Earth is all about duality. This dimensional reality that we currently live in is very much about the experience of duality. And I think other dimensional realities are as well. Certainly not all of them, but many of them are. As long as we have an individual consciousness that we come into, we're embodied, and we are in relationship with other individual consciousnesses that are embodied, we're going to have duality, because we're going to have me and another, me and you. So we have a dual relationship going on. What happens here in our third dimensional reality, and is particularly striking in the time that we live in now, is there's a lot of polarization. And we stand on opposite sides of a chasm, and we don't view reality the same way. And so we're struggling with some kind of resolution of these polarities in a healthy way, because the alternative is war, violence, and destruction, which most of us don't want to go to. So one of the ways we can think about the relationship between Nut and Geb is they represent our biosphere. Nut is the atmosphere. She is air. She is the air that we breathe. She is the sky. She is the warmth that we receive from the sun through the atmosphere. It doesn't burn us up because the atmosphere tones it down, but nonetheless we receive the warmth of the sun. Well, of course, the earth, we live upon the earth. The earth provides us with food. It provides us, keeps us connected to the planet. Nurtures us with plants and, takes care of us in that way. So together they form the biosphere, which is earth and all of its properties. If we poison the air or if we poison the earth, life will die. And so we depend on a healthy relationship between Nut and Geb, between sky and earth, in order for us, all of us are their children, all of the earthlings who live here, animals, humans, all of us together, and the other life forms that live here that are not human or animal, the minerals, the plants. All of us live together. We're the children of Nut and Geb, and we depend on the biosphere that they create. They give us that safety, security, and stability. So as we go into this solstice, let us go on a journey with Nut and Geb and experience the security, stability, and safety that their love, and that's very important, that sense of security is provided to us by their love. Even though they were pushed apart, they reach towards each other. The Nut is often portrayed as a feminine figure that arches across the sky, and her toes and her fingertips reach towards the earth. And it is said that Geb reaches toward his beloved, towards Nut with his mountains and with his trees. So I invite you to get comfortable. Put your feet on the floor. Take a couple of nice deep breaths. And I invite you to feel the surface that you're sitting, or perhaps you're lying down. Feel the surface that's under you, whether it's a chair that you're sitting on, or perhaps a sofa or a bed that you're lying on. Feel what is beneath you. And I invite you to drop a cord from your body down to the floor and down, below the floor, down into the earth itself. Connecting with the core of the earth, connecting with Gab, connecting with his heart center. And feel yourself held, anchored by that cord. And I invite you now to imagine that you are lying somewhere on the surface of the earth. And this may be a place that you know. It may be a place that is familiar to you. Or it may be a place that has just shown up now in your imagination. But wherever it is beautiful. And you feel safe and secure in this place. So much so that you are able, in your mind's eye, to close your eyes and allow yourself to be embraced and held by your Earth Father, by Gab. And feel his strength. Feel his power. There is great nurturance in Father Earth's strength. There is a sense of being protected, of being held stable, safe, secure. He is a provider who provides you what you need. Ground to walk upon, waters to bathe and drink, food to eat that grows from his earth, shade on a hot summer day, all of that is given to you by Gab, by Earth. The minerals that live inside the earth, some of which find their way to the surface. And perhaps you've held a mineral or a stone in your hand and felt its power, felt it communicating to you in some way. This is your brother, this is your sister, this is your fellow earthling. Perhaps you have or have had a companion animal in your life, a special being who is different from you, does not speak English, does not talk to you in the way other humans do. But perhaps that bond was a bond of the heart, a deep connection based on the common rules of existence here on earth. A fellow earthling. In your mind's eye, imagine that you can open your eyes and look up into the sky and see what you see, whether it's a bright blue sky or clouds or rain, tree branches hanging over you, birds flying through the sky, perhaps landing in trees nearby, calling to each other, and in some way calling to you. Squirrels running up and down the trees, leaping through the air, chasing one another. And birds that fly very, very high in the sky. Vultures and hawks, and maybe an eagle or two. Balancing on the air currents, wings dipping as the air pushes them up and down. Take a nice deep breath. Breathe into your body this beautiful air, which is the gift to you from your sky mother, Newt. She who wants you to fill yourself up with the gift of breath, the life that comes from breath. Nice deep breath, breathing in the environment all around you, feeling it fill up your body, bringing life-giving air to every cell in your body. Perhaps you see evidence of her rippling through the trees, branches moving, a sign of her ever-moving energy. And feeling the air on your skin. Perhaps it's cold or it's warm. But however it is, feeling it. Feeling yourself touched by the breath of the Sky Mother Newt. You are held in the container of earth and sky. You are a child of earth, held by your divine parents, who love you totally and completely, who do not judge, who do not condemn or reject you, no matter what you do. They continue to hold you in the arms of their love for each other. That love creates a sacred container for you to live in, for all of us to live in. I'm going to be quiet now for a couple of minutes and let you go on a journey with Newt and Geb and receive your own download from them in honor of this important solstice time. Nice deep breath, opening yourself to information, a download from Newt and Geb, your divine parents. Give thanks to the sky goddess and the earth god for whatever it is that you have received. And take a nice deep breath to anchor their gift in your body. To anchor within you that feeling of being held by the beautiful container created by the sky goddess Nut and the earth god Geb. Use the breath to anchor within you a sense of safety, security, stability. No matter what life throws at you, you are always held in the loving arms of the divine parents. Take a nice deep breath. Come slowly back into the room. Thank you. We will talk again.